And welcome to the ThroBak Guitar Lounge Podcast, episode number 67, a special Chicago edition.
That's right. We were on the road just a little bit ago, yesterday.
Yeah, we just got back yesterday evening. We had a little trip around the lake from Grand Rapids into Chicago. The first 140 miles is fine. Going in, it's the last 40 that...
Yeah, that's the treacherous part.
I think the first 40 coming out took us almost as long as the last 140. So.
Yes. So in today's episode of the ThroBak Guitar Lounge Podcast, we're going to get into why we went to Chicago, but it has to do with this subject of the Guitargument. What is it, Matthew?
The Guitargument this week is, does the guitar world still need NAMM?
That's right. It's a serious question. We didn't come up with this question because it was evident from the people attending the Fretboard Summit in Chicago, which is where we went, which during the airing of this podcast will be ongoing in Chicago through the weekend. Is it going Saturday also or Sunday?
It doesn't go Sunday.
No.
I think the days 20th to the 22nd. So tomorrow's the last day.
All right. So Saturday, when this airs, will have been the last day of it.
But it goes well into the evening too. So there's performances and there's lots of activities.
A 67th episode also, we will be playing a 67 ES335, of which I have a couple.
Oh, more than one.
But I'm going to play what is my favorite one to bring to a gig, which has ThroBak ER custom pickups in it. And this is sort of related to last week's pickup magnet, Alnico P.A.F. magnet dual, short A5 versus long-oriented A5. ER Custom is an example of one of our sets that has short A5.
Right.
And you will hear that in a 67 ES335 today. I am also going to do Matthew's Musical Musings.
You're going to take over? You have your own
I'm going to give you a break.
Subject.
I haven't changed the graphic, but I was on the road. I've been driving a lot.
That's true. You've been around.
I drove through around Michigan and came upon a guitar musical musing that would be just in the sort of realm of the kind of thing you would on your travels bring to the show as a interesting guitar tidbit.
Cool. Looking forward to that.
So I will share that as well later in the show. Matthew, you're doing Rorschach Riffs today?
Yep. Chicago edition too. Well, I should say,
really? I didn't know that.
The theme is Chicago and baseball theme.
Okay. Oh, so that's right. We've got that's right.
That's part of the Chicago.
That's right. We'll go to the
news.
ThroBak news.
And tell people what we've been up to.
Yeah. So the throw we hinted at this with our intro. We were in Chicago. We got there Wednesday, and for the beginning of the Fretboard Summit, which is put on by the Fretboard Journal every year.
The Fretboard Journal and the Old Town. What is it? Let me get the
Chicago
name. Old Town School of Folk Music.
School of Folk Music. So this has been going how many years?
I didn't find that out, but at least 5, maybe longer. I can't remember.
Yeah. So I heard about it because I think Aaron at Collings had mentioned that they went to this to me, and that they really felt it was done right. Right.
Yeah.
And had we ever thought about attending? So I'd considered it for a few years, and this year, actually, it was last weekend. I thought I knew this thing is in August.
You looked it up.
I looked it up, and it was Thursday, first day of it. And then I looked to see if there was a Cubs game. And
your favorite team?
Well, I kind of grew up. My formative years were in the Chicago area, so yeah, I'm a bit of a Cubs fan because our grade school and junior high. Well, it was grade school. They'd bring kids every year to the Cubs game, and then my parents would bring us to the year. So every year I'd see a Cubs game like twice a year growing up. So it's a it's sort of a nostalgic memory for me. Well, it so happens they were playing the White Sox on Wednesday at Wrigley Field, and the hotel suggested by the Fretboard Journal closest to the
that's right.
The venue here for the Fretboard Summit is right across the street from Wrigley Field. So it was meant to be.
Yeah, literally.
So we, Matthew and I, drove down there Wednesday morning and to Chicago, and we caught the Cubs game. Now the Cubs lost, but if you're a Chicagoan, another Chicago team won, the White Sox. So we got a few photos here. Here's Matthew in front of the iconic marquee here in front of Wrigley Field. Here's Matthew and I at our seats. We had one of the
ushers.
Ushers was kind enough to take this photo for us. And here, it started at 1:20. Here's some action at the game. And it was, place was pretty well packed.
Yep.
And very, very, if you've ever been to a Cubs game, the crowd is very enthusiastic. And it's fun to watch if you like baseball.
What I did notice, though, because there wasn't a lot of action until maybe the middle of the fifth or sixth inning. But I think the crowd really was, in our area, it seemed to be a White Sox crowd.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a rivalry going on there, and just as much. So basically, there was cheering all the time.
Yeah.
Because
whatever happened.
Yeah, whatever happened, and my Apple Watch, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times went off, said that volume levels were at dangerous levels. So anyway, that atmosphere is pretty fun, I find. So
it was beautiful.
Yeah, it was great weather. It was 77 degrees, perfect weather for a baseball game. But you get a breeze off the lake, and we were just in the shade, and it was cool.
It was cool. No, you could have used a light covering. I just had a normal short sleeve shirt on, but it did get a little cool.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. So then the next day, we went to the Fretboard Summit, and on the way to the
we had one little detour before dinner on the Wednesday. Do you remember that?
It's a detour before. Oh, that's right. We went to Chicago Music Exchange. Now Chicago Music Exchange is one of the dealers for ThroBak.
Yeah, very good dealer.
Very good dealer. And we realized we did not take any pictures there because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's shockingly, actually, it's like, seriously, it's like it should be a guitar destination if you're in Chicago.
Yes.
I have never been to a guitar. I've been to Elderly. I've been to, we've been to the Sweetwater store. And
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Those were dwarfed by Chicago Music Exchange because it's really super nicely set up, tall ceilings, guitars all the way up to the top, and lots of electrics, lots of acoustics on the first floor, and then basses on the bottom floor.
And drums. Yeah.
Drums. And now, this matters to me. I think this is a sign of how well managed that place is. The bathrooms were spotless.
You gave it a high ranking.
Yes. And, think about it. Everybody's touching those guitars.
Yeah, good point.
And
we carried our sanitizer all through Chicago because every time you touch a door handle or you touch something, a railing, you think, I better put some stuff on my hands.
But anyway,
city.
I thought like, that's like a good gauge as to like the attention to detail of this place.
Yeah.
And, but the number of guitars are overwhelming.
Yeah, I said that to you this morning. I don't think I have one photo of guitar of Chicago Music Exchange.
And they have a very nice vintage and used guitar selection. And I think one reason I know they buy collections outright.
Yeah, they do.
I asked Jonathan Urban, who I believe is the manager there, and I've bought guitars from him. And very good job with the bathrooms. If he's the manager, I believe he is. He's
got to keep on top of that.
He's right at the. He's commanding the appropriate tasks to be done there, I think. But anyway, where was I going with that? As far as
you're talking about the guitar, or
no, I was talking about the used selection.
The used selection, sorry.
So they buy collections, but I asked Jonathan. I said, "Do you guys do consignment?" And he said, "Yes, we do." And I said, he said we do 80-20 usually is their setup, and that's very reasonable. So 20% commission for them, 80 for the person putting it on consignment. If that's the deal, they're going to have people that are selling guitars on consignment that know they're getting a fair deal. And I think that ups the quality of the used guitars in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't that it was 80-20 the way Rainbow Music did it in town here. It wasn't it?
Rainbow did 80-20, and then I think what did they do if you did a trade, if you wanted to use it? If you
wanted to use your money from that for to buy something in the store, I think it was 85-15. I think
it was a little bit better. It was a little better. Yeah.
So,
but anyway, 80-20, I think that's very, very fair.
Yeah, they had. So I picked up a Les Paul that had P90s, a historic reissue, and I just assumed it was new, and it was one of these Wildwood spec ones that was used. And I looked around. They have some very high quality used instruments. You played a bass that
the Frankenstein one that you played
one, that sounded great. It was it was very expensive.
Yeah,
it's like $14,000 something. I
think it was $14.5. It was a 50, if I'm not mistaken, 54, I think, body. It wasn't the original pickup, and a 66 neck on it. It was one of those reissue Telecaster style bass necks. But it did sound great.
It sounded amazing, and it was a good weight.
Yeah, the weight was reasonable. Very nice, actually. I'd say on the light side.
Anyway, if you're in Chicago, definitely go to Chicago Music Exchange. I didn't really realize how nice and big it was.
And then the next day, I was looking at their website because I need to ask. I actually have to phone and ask a question to somebody there. I thought of later, but there's a vault that I totally missed.
Yeah, a vintage I saw vault. It. I almost went in it. It's kind of near the bathrooms, and I just forgot about it because, like, you walk back into the mains. I even told Jonathan Urban. I said, "Do you get a disoriented working here?" Because the number of guitars. He said, "No, I'm used to it."
You're used to it now.
He said, "But I bought a guitar there too."
You had to commemorate the visit.
It was well worth yes. But they've got a great selection of guitars, and if you can go in there, I think most of them are on display. Yeah. One I bought wasn't, but I think it was something that had recently gone on their website, so it hadn't made it sort of into the showroom yet. But
speaking of used, there was one of those early iterations of a Reverend guitar that was made with the.
Yes, I saw.
I don't know what type of material that was. It's not a wood. I think it's a wood product.
Is it like a
masonite
or something? Is it kind of the finish is kind of incorporated into it? Is it sort of a melamine sort of like finish almost?
But that guitar, I think that it said on the tag that it was from the 90s. I think, but it had very, very little wear. Someone had taken good care of it.
Oh, I'm not even on the ThroBak News graphic there, Matthew. You didn't spot that. Okay, so on to the Fretboard Summit.
Would you want to? Do you want to do any news from the thing? Are we
from what?
From last week's questions or anything? Do you want to?
Sure, yeah, do that. We got a fair amount of news for the ThroBak News.
There's a lot of news.
Yeah, sure, do that. I didn't want to interrupt your.
So just to recap from last week's show, we did the short Alnico 5 versus long Alnico 5, but there was some discussion about that, but it seemed to be surpassed with people discussing the Steve Clark pickup that you've been working on.
People are interested in that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I finally heard back from the guy today too, who I'm doing the work for, that he does not want the braided wire replaced on it. So I'm going to put that back together and put it in a test guitar, and then hopefully we can hear it on the show in some form or fashion. Okay, go ahead.
But okay, so people really like that. They were fascinated by it, and they were very interested in how you were describing the process of how you came up with.
Kind of like the forensic work to duplicate accurately
a dead pickup.
What's totally kaput as far as the coil goes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They were interested in how you came up with that. And then this one viewer said the third concert I saw was Def Leppard on the Pyromania tour. So I saw that guitar and heard those pickups.
Okay. There's lots of photos of him playing that guitar.
Is there?
Yeah.
The sunburst. So he said cool, but not nearly as cool as actually working on the guitar and pickups. My tastes have changed a lot since then, but I would still have a wild fanboy moment about working on Steve Clark's guitar.
It is
we didn't
cool.
see the guitar, but we saw the bridge pickup.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Is that it for the? Is there more?
No. That's
okay.
it.
So we'll go on to talking more about the Fretboard Summit. So it started at 10, right?
We were there, I think, just before 10.
Yeah, and there was a line outside to get in. So this is a well attended sort of gathering of mainly boutique guitar players. But on the way over there in the elevator, we saw the guy I think is the custom shop. He's I don't know if he runs a custom shop for Martin. But he obviously works in the custom shop because all the guitars that Martin is displaying there were custom shop guitars, pretty much.
Right.
And we said hi to him, and then we went to their sort of booth area, and he no, this was kind of nice. He said, "Oh, I didn't put two and two together, but." With the logo, we were wearing short sleeve versions of these shirts. And he said, but I recognize the logo, and you're the guys that make those cool P.A.F. repros. So I was like, that was nice when you think of, like, they don't even make an electric. And they recognized, what we made.
That was Jimmy you're talking about.
Yeah.
We met and we walked in the elevator doors of the hotel open, and he had his Martin shirt on with his tag, and he was getting ready to
And
go
you
over.
saw a guitar that you might want to buy. How much was it?
I can't remember. I think it was 20, was it 24?
Maybe 24 or 27, somewhere around there, $1,000.
I think it was Chris Martin's cousin had hand painted a butterfly and sunflowers on this guitar.
All very nice stuff too, by the way. But
it was a one of one guitar.
Yeah. So, but while standing in line, right in front of me was I recognized him as a YouTuber from Driftwood Guitars, Chris Alvarado.
Okay.
And I said hi to him and said, "Oh, I really enjoy your videos." He's the guy that cuts guitars in half. And they make beautiful guitars, by the way. But he'll like, from the perspective of a great guitar maker, he will give kind of a rundown as to what he sees in terms of these production guitars. But I asked him how he liked this Fretboard Summit. He loved it. He said this is way better than NAMM. He said I get to talk to people. He said I might talk most of the day to a guy in one booth. And he said, so you really get to know the people in your industry. And the talks, he says, are very valuable. Bob Taylor is going to have a talk there from Taylor Guitars, or formerly from Taylor Guitars. And he basically mirrored everything that the people at Collins had said about it, and that this is way more important or kind of a gathering for them than NAMM. So we went in, and the way this is done is it's not one big sort of like venue hall,
like a trade show floor.
Like a trade show floor. It's like NAMM is. It's an older building that's been very nicely renovated, and there's two on either side of the street. They have theater. Do they have a couple of theaters in them, or is it just the one?
There was a theater on both sides of the street.
Yeah. So there's theaters on both sides, and also this place, they'll have concerts there. Totally aside from this Fretboard Summit. So they're used to having performances there of major artists that come in. They've got their performance schedule up there, I saw somewhere. But it's an interesting place. They'll have performances there. We didn't stick around for any of those in the evening, but they have like a happy hour in the evening. They have performances that go into the evening. They have talks with sort of industry leaders. They have, and then they have people showing their wares, and of course, and one of the reasons for us to decide to go is we get to see Collings there. They're a big customer of ours, and that's one reason we go to NAMM, is to say hi to them. So we thought, let's try this as well. So we saw Collings, and they had a prototype guitar there with ThroBak P90 in it, our KZ90 P90, which is an off-menu P90 that we have. And I've got a picture here with the guitar. This is a prototype. They're not sure they're going to make this as a regular model or not. But I got a chance to play it. Here's Mark Althans, and you've got the name of it here. It's called the 620 LC, and it's sort of inspired by the single pickup Casino and ES330 guitars. That I guess a couple of their employees have these, and some of their artists have one, and they really like the kind of the feel and sound of these. And interestingly, I've got a 64 or 63 Epiphone Casino that has that same single pickup P90 setup. So they developed this as a prototype, and it sounds great. And Matthew, you took a video of me just when I started making mistakes playing this guitar.
Well, no one has to know that.
I was doing great till you started shooting the video.
Well, you were playing really well, and then I thought, I better shoot some of this. And then you said something.
Because they handed me the guitar. They said, "Hey, play it." And I was like, "Okay." And then I started playing it. Then I realized, they're all looking at me.
Yeah, there's nobody else in there. Except,
Mark was looking at my fingers.
Yeah, he was very.
Because he's a great guitar player, by the way. I don't know. You would think or hope that the people you're buying guitars from have some real knowledge of sort of the performance aspect of the instrument. Right? And there's guys at Collings that do. Mark is a very good guitar player, and Aaron is also, and Aaron's the guy who made this guitar, Aaron Hupp. So I was playing something that's kind of cool, so he was looking at my fingers, but that was and then I'm auditioning for Collings. But anyway, this is some of the playing here. I was playing way better before this. Okay,
you were. I think you were psyching yourself out.
Yeah. Okay. No. So the funny part of this is so I looked at the list of people attending this, and by the way, when you go to NAMM, there'd be people that there's Rhett Shull, and I was interviewed by Rhett Shull once upon a time. I have yet to talk to him face to face because these guys that have such a YouTube presence, they're mobbed.
Yeah.
They they have an audience that is very appreciative, and so they'll go up and say hi. So it's you don't want to interrupt them when they got three guys talking and say, "Hey, Brett," So one of these guys was, I thought I knew Rochelle was gonna be there, and
Zach
Broyles, and which we always see at NAMM. He'll just I think the first time we went, we were walking there, and he did he tap us on the shoulder and said, "Oh, you guys are from ThroBak." I think he did.
Possibly, yeah.
And he was working at Carter's Vintage when we went there, at NAMM in Nashville.
Yep.
When they had that 1 year. Anyway, so I thought like, well, I've never talked to, is it Josh Smith? No.
Josh Scott.
Josh Scott. When I say Smith. But
from JHS.
From JHS, because, I don't know, say hi to him. I've never seen another one of these guys who's always mobbed there. So I thought, like, this will be a smaller sort of thing. I'll run across. Well, I'll run across him and say hi, introduce myself. And so I was totally unaware of this until today. But after I played that guitar, where's the photo here? Josh Scott was like in there sitting down playing the guitar right after me, and I had no clue. He's right there. I could have said hi to him. He's sitting right there. I had no clue he was in there till today.
Yeah, no, as soon as you hung it up, he walked over, picked it up, and then he went over and started playing. And you were talking, that's when you were talking to Mark.
Yeah, because I was talking to Mark about, he wanted to know, like, what were my impressions of the guitar and how to compare to, like, my memory of sort of a double cutaway ES335 or casino style. And I thought this sounded fuller, much fuller.
And not as bright, you said.
And yeah, there's a little twang quality that's kind of part of the character of those ES330s and casinos that this seemed fuller, I thought. And it's now, obviously, they're not going for this is a single cutaway. They're not trying to duplicate it. But I actually thought in many ways this is like, this prototype is an improvement upon it if you kind of like that setup. Okay, so we kind of felt we got everything we aimed to accomplish in that yesterday and headed home so we could record this podcast today, Matthew.
We want to tell the good people all about it and say, well,
yes. So
you can still attend it if you're in the area.
Yeah, if you're around there, this is so, if you're in the region, it's heavily acoustic guitar, but there are a lot of electrics too. We also talked to
and pedals, a lot of pedals.
We talked to Dustin Miller from Joe Glazer's shop,
the Gear Check people.
Yeah, the Gear Check, because we've they were also attending this, because we've kind of debated, since there are we do vintage repairs. If you're not familiar with Gear Check, the Joe Glazer shop is set up. It's a database, and I guess it's a blockchain database so these are all, there's no messing with sort of the records as far as authenticating vintage pickups and for repairs that come through here. So we've debated, is that something that we should kind of offer as part of a repair? And then also there have been instances of ThroBak pickups that have been on Reverb and eBay that are counterfeit. So we talked to him about their setup, and we're still kind of mulling over whether or not it's something that we want to add. But I guess if you have an opinion about that, let us know in the comments. It seems like a great idea. I think it would add value to both repair customers and ThroBak customers. Mm-hmm. But then the question is, there would have to be a date certain where ThroBak pickups came with this, and then obviously the previous customers wouldn't have this level of authentication. But anyway, that's kind of what we're mulling over. But anyway, there's a wide range of people attending, lots of acoustic, fair amount of electric, pedal makers. They had a room with pedal makers. Mm-hmm. They also had a room where you could play, they called it the Vintage Gibson Petting Zoo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had did you go in there?
Was that just acoustics?
It was just acoustics where you could just pick up and play them.
Oh.
And I
think I saw that room.
I have a 57J 45, and they had, I think, a 55 one in there. I played that. They had, so these were not sort of like museum quality, but these were well played, but very nice instruments. So that was kind of cool. They had an amp room that had vintage amps. Mm-hmm. They were filming something in there when I went in there. Were there any amp manufacturers?
The amp manufacturers that were listed, it would say on stage. So like ThroBak
I see.
was there.
That's right.
Benson amps was there,
yes,
but they were the amps that were on stage.
Yeah, that's right. I guess they're for performers to use.
And Collings had a ThroBak that you could use in their room.
Yeah. Okay, is there more to add? We're going to go over this again in the sort of
The
Guitargument.
In the cool down. Yeah, we'll talk a little more.
So we'll talk some more specifically about why this is maybe these sorts of shows are kind of the future for guitar stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk, but that'll be the Guitargument. Okay. Pickups of the week, Matthew. 67 ES335. ThroBak ER custom pickups. We will be right back.
Grab the guitars.
With you with the bass and me with the guitar.
Okay.
Okay, we are back. And Matthew, I thought of this. We did not mention this and maybe the ThroBak audience wants to know the impact of the scope and reach of this show. We had 3 people at this Fretboard Summit that recognized us from the podcast and said they loved the podcast. For me, like 2 in within 30 seconds. And one of the guys said, "Oh, I love the info about the whining machines." And I said, "Well, I figured if I find it cool, there's got to be someone else who will." He said, "Oh, you found your audience," because he was like, he found that stuff cool. So yeah, that's sort of gratifying.
I had a guy who, in one of the rooms, everyone's very friendly at this thing. That's one thing. Yeah. It's not as crazy loud as NAMM, and the rooms are smaller. So when you're going between the 2 buildings, I guess these are music practice rooms, right?
Well, some of them are, yeah.
And some of them are dance recital rooms because they've got mirrors and bars on the walls and things. But one of the guys, I just said hello to, walked in, he said hi, and then I said hi, and then he was sort of like, he kind of just looked at me a beat longer, and then he said, "I really like the show," and I was like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah.
But I find it kind of funny because I didn't go there thinking, "Oh, I'm going to be recognized from the show."
Yeah.
But you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let's take a look at the guitars here. This is one I've got 2 67 ES335s. Actually, I've got a third one that's been renecked poorly.
What does that mean? You have to get it redone again?
Got to get it redone. They said it wrong. Yeah, but anyway, this one, they've all had the stop tailpiece put in, which devalues it. And I got this without pickups. Actually, I got this at Rainbow Music.
Did you really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Pete said, "Oh, I've got something you might be interested in." Had the electronics, but it had no pickups, and it had the tailpiece in the wrong spot. But this is actually the Lyric Carlton location for these things. And someone in their wisdom changed the ABR1 posts to sort of Nashville posts, but spaced for an ABR1.
Okay.
Still sounds great. Okay, we have the ThroBak ER custom pickups in here. And by the way, if you kind of ever wonder, like what happens with if you don't, so our recommendation with our covers is our covers are aged, and our recommendation is, and we call them lightly aged. We use a process that gives them what we feel is like an accurate level of aging. We feel very often it's overdone. And actually, this comes into play. Talking to Jonathan Urban, he actually mentioned that he thought we did the best aging for the nickel covers. And we've had Masakondo tell us the same thing, unsolicited. And he's the guy that does repair for Norm's Rare Guitars, works there. And
he sees a lot of vintage
He sees a lot of vintage guitars. And he said ours are the best for the nickel aging and the look of a P.A.F. cover. So that is pretty high praise. But anyway, our recommendation is you get we only sell lightly aged. Sometimes if you ask, you want a little on the heavier side of that, We pair them up. If we have some, we will give you those. But we say don't clean them. And this is what they will look like after a few years of play. Maybe you can see that.
There it is. There's a good angle.
Let's see if we can. I'll hide my head so we'll focus on it. Okay. So if you look at that, it's sort of they look like vintage ones. It's a modeled sort of random tarnish.
Right.
It doesn't look like we scorched them with chemicals because we didn't. I'll give you our little secret. It's a multi-step process. We use an ozone chamber to give these a natural tarnish. Mm-hmm. And it gets the ball rolling on a authentic looking aged cover. Right off the bat, they'll look authentically lightly aged. Okay. All right. So this guitar, though, the ER Customs, nice punchy sound, I find.
Is the ozone chamber the opposite of the cryogenic? Is that how you say the cryogenic?
Cryogenic?
Cryogenic chamber.
No, that's actually there is apparently putting pickups in a cryogenic chamber will apparently change the copper structure and lower the ohms per foot of the wire. I've never known this. I don't know if that's true, but that is the claim. Some pickups are cryogenically treated.
Well, what's the chamber? I'm thinking for people. What is the chamber that people go in?
You mean like a pressure chamber or something?
No, like a chamber that people want to, like the one that Michael Jackson slept into.
That was some sort of pressure chamber, wasn't it? That like would boost oxygen levels.
Yeah, athletes use them and things.
Yeah, hyperbaric chamber.
Is it hyperbaric?
I don't know, something like that. Yeah, I think that's right.
So
but we're getting off topic.
Well,
here,
I know,
Matthew.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I got distracted.
Okay, so we will play. You've heard this before. I will try to vary it up a little bit, but it seems appropriate to the show. It's sort of our take on Born in Chicago.
Right.
And so we were just there. Why wouldn't we play it? Okay. Let's all right, here, Matthew,
Ooh, what's that water?
I gotta get the pedal within reach here to for the dirtier tones, but we'll start with clean. Okay, you ready?
Ready. Do we count it off?
1, 2, 3.
There you go.
ER custom set. I like these. When we play out, Blave, we're going to play out, and I'm going to use an ES335. I'll probably bring this one because it's nice and punchy with these pickups, ER custom, with an ES335. If you want kind of a rocky, bluesy, punchy tone, great combo.
Yeah.
PG 102 sounds great, and ES335 also a little more refined. Again, that's partly the magnets, but
Yeah, those pickups have a nice edge when you're driving the amplifier.
yep. And I refretted this when I got it. Needed new frets, but I played this so much. It's like it kind of needs another. Some of the frets up here, and maybe in need of a little bit of a level and dress. That which is a testament as to how great this combo is.
Well used.
Okay, so let's see here, Matthew. Let's go to what we got next here.
Guitargument.
This is the Guitargument. All right, let's put the guitars away, and we will be back with the Guitargument. I just thought of something, Matthew. People are going to think, why wasn't Paul at the Cubs game with you?
Yeah, why wasn't he invited?
He. One reason we decided this was a good time to one reason I decided to check is because Paul is on vacation at the end of this week. And I thought, Paul is such a key part of the ThroBak working structure here that maybe if this Fretboard Summit is the same week, maybe it makes sense to, run out and do that. So we did. He went to NAMM with us, though. Mm-hmm. Frankly,
January.
he doesn't play guitar, so I don't know how excited he is about. Would he be excited with Chicago Music Exchange? Maybe for 5 minutes.
Yeah, probably. Probably it's probably like you going into a fabric store, John.
Oh, that's right. Matthew actually found that's right. If you love quilting, there is a fabric store next to this Fretboard Summit venue,
Just down the
Matthew
street.
found it. Just 2 or 3 doors down, right?
Just a couple of doors down. Yeah.
We would have left quicker if you had. I refused to go in there, though. But there were bolts of fabric. I could see it through the window.
They had.
Okay.
I'll tell you this. I thought some of the prices were Chicago prices because I've never seen a bolt of fabric being priced on a quarter yard. But a quarter yard. They had. There's a famous. Do you know Liberty of London? There's a famous place in London called Liberty of London,
Mm-mm.
and they sell all sorts of kind of fabric and all different types of sort of stuff. But they had Liberty of London fabrics for a little over $10 a quarter yard.
Wow.
And the kind of the highest.
I don't know if I'm just saying wow because
that's very expensive.
Expensive, yeah.
Because since COVID and everything's gone up. But the going rate for a yard of fabric, for most of it, is between say $13 and $15 a yard. So $40 a yard is
okay. I just feel like you've got to replace some of this knowledge with guitar knowledge.
The similarities between the two worlds. My wife does a lot of quilting, but the similarities between the two worlds are. You got the gear aspect of it because people are into machines, and then there's different brands of machines.
I'm sure it is. Yes. Maybe that's why
John was traumatized as a small child. He was
I'm sure you were too, weren't you?
I could last about 15, 20 minutes, and then I would go sit in the car.
My gosh. No. Yeah.
I found it interesting, though.
Yeah. Well, okay.
There was air conditioning, I guess, in the store. This is the 70s when you were going to sit in the car and fry or go inside.
That's true. Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, let's get to the Guitargument, Matthew. Again, the subject of this Guitargument is what?
Hang on, let me get that. Does the guitar world still need NAMM?
Yes, and this Fretboard Summit, we think questions is a real question. Perhaps this is the guitar player and maker's solution to what NAMM has devolved into. Okay, Matthew, you're going to defend NAMM. We're going to do the real argument here.
Right, we're going to get into
Guitargument.
We will not.
We're going to do
down.
5 minutes. You're going to defend NAMM, and I'm going to take the other side that it's like for guitar, it's on its way out. All right.
So you're focusing on guitar. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, we'll get into that. Okay. Ready, set, 5 minutes, go.
Okay. NAMM is still relevant because it is a industry-wide, a worldwide event. So you're going to see people from Europe, Asia, Canada, North America, Mexico, the whole gamut.
Yamaha was at this thing.
Well,
Yamaha practically is the largest. Am I correct? This is the largest music manufacturing instrument manufacturer in the world.
$4 billion, and they're the largest. They have the largest footprint.
They had their guitar contingent, salesperson there, with a nice selection of their.
That was the custom shop people, wasn't it?
Yeah. U.S. Custom Shop. Okay, go on.
Okay,
I already have a counterpoint to that.
All right.
Go.
So, what else has NAMM got going for it? It hit. So you've got, what is it, 100,000 plus people come together for this. So if you've got your dealers, you can do your meetings. You can do what in a few days what it would take literally weeks.
You've had 1 minute. Let me have a minute.
Take over.
Okay. So I already said Yamaha was here.
Right.
NAMM is everything from the cheapest, junkiest PA to your most premium piano.
True.
Guitars are in the mix there. Do you really need to go there to, do you really get the kind of focus and attention you need from a venue like that at NAMM for guitar? And you've now have the major players of Gibson and Fender and PRS who are not going. If you want, so you've taken that out of the equation. Isn't a place like this Fretboard Summit the perfect venue to have a more personalized contact without the auditory assault that is NAMM? Go. You've got another minute.
Well, what's happening at NAMM since COVID and since I think people started to look at like how are we spending our money?
No, you just defend this. We're not doing the cool down.
Okay, so
you defend NAMM.
So NAMM. Well, it still is the meeting place. So I mean, you're going to meet your distributors. You're going to meet with your other dealer people. There are other now offsite shows, and there are stuff that's going on, after hours and things. And Fender always does something. They did something last year offsite. Okay. There's the Woodwire and Volt show, boutique show offsite that is a gathering. It has kind of a similar feeling to the Fretboard Journal.
You've had another minute. So
okay, sorry, go ahead.
You're proving my point. NAMM is so not about guitars now that they're literally making a Fretboard Summit off-site of NAMM, sort of like with the Woodwire and Volts thing. That's how needed it is. That's how less relevant NAMM has become for guitar. You have all the noise of NAMM, and you have none of the personal sort of interaction that you have of a smaller thing like Woodwire and Volts or this Fretboard Summit.
Well, I think the issue is like how can you combine and get all the meetings you need? Like if you're a store owner, you've got to meet with various people.
Okay. Now that we've talked to Matthew Larrabee about this. He used to say your year would be made by the sales you would get from NAMM. Mm-hmm. And that is not the case anymore. That era is done. It has become a directive for places like Fender to tell dealers what they have to buy privately, but the sort of open air market of Fender guitar reveals is gone. Same with Gibson. So it's not so much making sales; it's a directive from someplace like Fender or Gibson. This is what you have to buy according to our relationship, and this is what we have new of which you will get this allotment. Well, am I right?
Well, no, I think that is true, but also like the other thing that NAMM brings in, there's a certain synergy with that many people coming together, and you have these little impromptu meetings that you otherwise wouldn't have. People, especially if you're wearing your old throwback shirt.
That's
people
true.
Recognize
this is
you.
true. This is true. But you have the same thing at these, and perhaps more so and more impactful at a more focused guitar event like the Fretboard Summit or Woodwire and Volts, which is only there because of the only reason that that is something happening is because NAMM has fallen short in terms of guitar. Okay, that's the guitar. Let's go to the cool down.
We can discuss what we think.
No, I was not acting there, Matthew. I believe this is all true.
You think this is?
Were you acting? Do you think NAMM is still this relevant?
Well, we went into last year then because we attended NAMM in January 2026, and that was the thought going into it. Is this worth it? So we really were thinking about that, and I walked into the show thinking it's probably not worth it. It's probably a lot of money to do it, and we're not even displaying it.
We're not displaying, but
we're
it's
walking the show.
It's a lot of time. We're not even there for the full length of it, but it's it's the flight, it's the hotel, it's the time. It's the time of year, coming from the Midwest to go all the way across the country. Go ahead, though.
But I thought at the end of at the show last year, I thought we had sort of felt that there'd been enough kind of.
Well, yeah, but what was the thing? I mean, do you remember?
I got to look at my notes again because
because I know that
I don't know if it's just getting your name out there or just people see you had there's various meetings Novo guitars. I got to follow up with them. I think again, Novo had kind of changed a little bit again. Because didn't Dennis Fano get a hold of his name again now?
I don't remember.
I think he's brought the Fano name back.
Could be, but was was us going to NAMM? Was that some key part of that?
No,
I mean, at least our relationship with them.
No,
I'm trying to. So I don't. When we've gone, I've met people sort of like. I've met artists and we've met new customers.
Yeah, we always run into that's true. We ran into a lot of people,
and then we get to visit with current customers like colleagues and kind of see what the current state of things are. But and then again, when Fender, PRS, and Gibson were there, you thought these are the big guys in the industry. It's important to see what their focus is that they're putting on display at the show.
Yeah, so
right?
you're talking about the big three,
PRS,
Gibson, better.
So it's just seeing that and kind of seeing what they're putting out in terms of what they want to focus on is useful. Because it does sort of give you an idea of what the direction of the guitar industry is in terms of what they're projecting is important to sales, and that kind of does inform you as well if you're making guitar-related products to see what those large players are focusing on. That's removed. You don't have to be there to see that in person. And if you talk directly to the people that are attending the Fretboard Summit, they're like, this is way better for them than NAMM.
Yeah, everyone said that.
It's not even like a little bit better.
Well, I think that I came across.
Also, if we kind of, I don't dread NAMM, but we're kind of thinking is this like the best use of time and resources? And it's a much smaller for us than a manufacturer that's going there to set up. Mm-hmm. And if the feedback you get from them is that we really like this sort of Fretboard Summit, and so you have that, you have Dallas Guitar Show. How many of these things are? That's what we're aware of. How many of these things really satisfy the kind of the guitar industry? Is it in total? Is it better than NAMM for the guitar industry?
Yeah, I think when Fender and Gibson and PRS left, it really opened up the door where I don't think people were really questioning about going to NAMM. It was just automatic.
Yeah.
You were going to go, you were going to see people. It brought a lot of people in, and now it just makes you question. Every year you're sort of like trying to, is this worth it? And the last time I looked up, there's no indication, nothing publicly has been announced that any of those companies are going to come back to NAMM in 2027.
Oh, and frankly, last year it was bait and switch.
Yeah,
Was it Fender that was going to be there?
They were announcing. I think you're right. I think they announced something that Fender was going to be there, or it might have been Gibson, but I think it was Fender. And then what they were really announcing was that they were going to be there, going to be doing something off site.
Yeah.
And but they didn't make it clear.
Oh, and it was like it was not clear until like 2 weeks ahead of time. Was it even closer than that?
Yeah, it might have been closer than that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's literally the kind of thing like I know last year we were thinking like, well, Fender's going to be there. I think we probably ought to go. Because that maybe this shows that the kind of NAMM as a guitar sort of focused gathering is winding up rather than winding down, and you want to be there then. And it did not turn out that way. Now, was it a wasted trip? No. But was it, I seriously question if the Fretboard Summit was we got to meet with Collings. We got to sort of like hang around people in the same industry. Mm-hmm. And they don't look totally fried from having to, in the sense of the people in those booths are pummeled by sound.
Yeah.
At NAMM. And
it's very difficult to hear and to listen and to talk.
Yeah.
I think too, what was interesting about the Fretboard Summit, so you've got Martin is there, well, at least the custom shop is there. But Chris Martin IV, who's no longer running the company, but he's, I guess, the sort of, is he like a chairman emeritus kind of position?
Yeah, I think so.
He was going to speak.
Yeah, he was going to be at Chicago Music Exchange also.
Oh, yeah.
Just think of something like this. You go to NAMM. You basically, you have now the big three gone. You have an auditory assault. You do get to talk to people, but you're usually talking to them next to some cacophony of sound.
Yep.
Very often,
yep.
If it's electric guitar related, if you wanted to go, let's say you wanted to go to a store, like where would you want to go? Norman's Rare Guitars. That's a trek. We haven't even gone.
No, we've never gone to it.
We went to one of these Amigos.
It was the Orange
County show that timed one year. I don't know if it did last year.
It does.
And
we stayed the same.
That was actually kind of like, wasn't that great?
You got a guitar out of it.
I did talk to Norma at Norman's Rare Guitars, and he had just bought something that, I got a nice guitar out of it, and he was very nice too. I can see why he's been so successful over the years. He was reasonably priced and attentive, but
I thought that show would have been bigger. I was surprised that it was.
Yeah, it was more like Guitar Flea Market, honestly. It was big, but you saw, and I know the way these shows work is that the price is way overpriced. The price is much higher on the card than what they expect to sell it for. But I always feel like you're just asking for an issues guitar if you get something like a guitar at a show like that, especially if you get anywhere near the marked price. But that's why places like Norman's Rare Guitars or Carter's Vintage is so successful, because you have this filter of the store. Okay, so what was my point with this was a smaller venue like this, you can play stuff, but you don't have to compete with the drums. You don't have to compete with whatever sort of crazy electronic device, which is part of the novelty of NAMM. But you get to meet with people making the stuff. You have after hours get-togethers, performances, talks during the show. It's open to the public on Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
This Fretboard Summit is, and it's in close proximity to a great guitar shop.
Mm-hmm.
And the guitar shop, they're going to have Chris Martin at Chicago Music Exchange. So it's like, and then on top of that, I think it's more than, I think maybe every year they time it with the Cubs home games. I don't want to get that to get out, but that's why I won't. If it is next year, I'm probably going to go because I'd like to go see another home game. And Chicago's a cool city. I mean, and
just getting to it. Getting out of it.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's worse with
we're driving
Los Angeles area, and it's
and if you're flying in, you're relying on an Uber.
There's good food.
We have very good food.
We within walking distance.
Just down the street from Chicago Music Exchange.
Yeah, so we were at the hotel. So just think about this. We were at a hotel literally across the street from Wrigley Field. 26-minute walk to Chicago Music Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really nice restaurant next to Chicago Music Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And the venue for the Fretboard Summit place was it not even 2 miles away?
It was like 1.9, just up North Clark.
So if you wanted to take an Uber there, easy as pie. We drove, and I was concerned that we wouldn't find a parking space. Parking was no problem.
It was a public lot right across the street.
Now, probably everybody will show up next year, and we'll be complaining about that next year.
Everybody from the Midwest will take your parking spot.
I mean, so does a place like this Fretboard Summit, Dallas show, does it replace it?
It definitely is building a very good community event that offers a lot of things.
I think Heritage should go to it. This Fretboard, didn't you get the?
Oh, I think they'd be welcome there. I thought my thought was Yamaha had a nice little room there, and Martin was there. Taylor had a big room. So my thought was, why isn't say the Gibson Custom Shop or the Fender Custom Shop? PRS, why aren't they here? Are they going to be?
They should.
I mean, Paul Reed Smith
Heritage should be their PRS. You're right. Yeah, they don't have to. They can.
If Paul Reed Smith showed up and gave a lecture, they would.
Also, too,
the other part about it that was interesting about it, I talked to a guy who was a builder from the Illinois area, the Chicago area, and he said, "This is my first year here." And then we were talking a little bit, and I said, "Oh," he said, "I've tried to get in before, but this is my first year to get in." So they curate it.
Oh, really?
And he said this guitar over here was used as a demo guitar in one of the rooms, but they I guess he had to apply a couple of times to get kind of into the show.
Really?
So there's a little bit of a bar to for admission.
Well, think about it in terms like, let's say you're Fender and you want to kind of want to repair the what I guess you could call it damage over the sort of the body shape.
The body shape fiasco.
Is this a way to kind of like
controversy?
Show some. I don't know. Have a talk there and feel like you're in, and be sort of present yourself as like we're a contributing member of this unified group rather than the big bad wolf.
Yeah, well, that's the definite feel you get from the place. Like this is a community, and I think all those people like Bob Taylor, it doesn't really have anything to do with Taylor Guitars, I think, anymore. Than maybe at an advisory level, or he's on the board or something. But he, he's obviously going to come in and probably talk about sustainability and their wood and
anyway, if there's a Cubs game, I'm probably going to want to go next year. I'm just telling you and I'm questioning whether or not it makes sense to go to NAMM. If Gibson, Fender, PRS are there, I'll probably say yes, or one of them is. But I'm really questioning whether it makes sense. Okay, should we go to the You got your Rorschach riffs. I forgot all about that, Matthew.
Yes, I do.
Let's get the guitar. And you said you could do it with this wonderful 6070 S335 that we'll see again. Hold on here.
Do that.
I forgot which button is. I think this is a drum roll. There it is. All right, here's the guitar, Matthew. Let me get your cable. Now, you said, is this Chicago themed?
It's Chicago themed and baseball.
Oh.
So there could be. So you have to think of anything to do with sort of baseball related or and Chicago related and guitar.
Okay.
And music.
Oh well. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Let's get you on the riff cam here. You got your. Do you need distortion or clean?
I think clean. I think clean would probably do it fine. I need this today, so I'll just have this handy.
Okay. You got a capo. Oh,
Am I gonna get too high in this frame?
I think you're fine.
Probably both pickups on.
The ES335 is a really cool design. Ted McCartney did have a nice creation here. Okay.
Ready? And I got
this. Let me get my pad of paper.
Get your pad of paper ready.
All right. Again, 4 riffs for the audience. A rapid succession. We are to guess
baseball, Chicago.
Okay.
I'll do the best I can.
All right.
This looks a little tricky, but it's in when you break it down into about 3-4 parts, it's not too bad. So
all right.
My hands are sweating too much. It should be okay.
Okay.
If you don't think about it, you're good.
Okay.
I messed that up there.
That's the first one.
That's the first one.
Okay. I already know it.
You know
Very good.
Okay, hang on. Ready? I'm going to play as little as this as possible because I don't want to get us into any trouble. So you got to think baseball and a kind of nickname for a baseball team. So here we go.
Okay. That's enough.
Okay. Now this one I'm stealing it because we got back late. I didn't have a lot of time, so I'm sorry. But
okay, all right.
Okay, now this is my capo one. Now this one you have to think. You have to put your. I hope I'm going to do this justice. Oh, this is backwards. You have to put your Cubs hat on when you're thinking of this one.
Okay.
Okay, hang on.
We're already on 4.
This is 4. Am I doing that right? Hang on. Am I getting that right? It has a kind of, when you listen to the track, I've never heard the song until the other day. It has a kind of Buddy Holly kind of beat to it.
This is Cubs related?
It's a Cubs related song. It's a Cubs related song. Something they might play at the to rally the team, maybe in the spring or during the game when they need to get a win.
Huh.
I think the directions I got was that they capoed it at the 5th fret, but you could also play it as.
Okay.
That's all I can do.
All right. Okay, you want to play these one more time? I've already got the 4th one. I'm not sure, but that's enough. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I think if you're not getting it from there, you don't know it.
And then
keep going. I already know it.
That repeats. Anyway, I don't want to do any more than that.
3. Okay. All right.
And then this one where it's just it's got that kind of Bo Diddley kind of Buddy Holly kind of. but it's only 3 chords. But the kind of rhythm of it. So
Okay.
but that's a very specific Cubs.
It is?
Yes. And we saw a poster of the artist who wrote it on one of the floors yesterday at the Old Town Folk Festival, Folk Music School.
Okay, well, I'll give you my impressions here.
Okay.
The first, or my guesses, or informed answers.
All right.
Center Field,
By?
the first one, by John Fogerty.
Yes. Correct.
2 is Boys of Summer by Don Henley, also written by
The music.
Mike Campbell.
Yes.
Who did the good of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, who did the drum beat.
Right.
That's his contribution to it. And I think I read of an interview where he said that bought him a house.
He did that. You're right about that.
His-
and then
his,
some very
royalties from that.
early drum automatic, like a
there's a story
electronic
with
drum
it.
machine. Yeah.
The story was that it was the first electronic drum machine that was, I think Don Henley heard somehow that he was experimenting with it. Mike Campbell was, and Don Henley heard the drum track, or it was sent to him, and he wrote wrote The Boys of Summer around it, and then they went to go record it.
Right.
And the program that he did into the drum machine, like, it went kaput. And he had to recreate it.
Oh, really? Had to recreate this. The story I heard was even better. That Mike Campbell had the drum machine. He created it. He played it for Tom Petty, and Tom Petty just wasn't feeling it. Though.
Okay.
No, it wasn't interesting. So I think somebody at the record company liked it or something, and said, I think he told Don Henley about it, who was trying to put music together for, I guess, the second record. And Mike Campbell sort of got a call. He drove up to Don Henley's place. He met him. They sat down together. He played it for him. I think he listened to it once or twice. And then Don Henley basically sort of like thanked him and sort of showed him out the door.
Yeah.
And Mike Campbell went home kind of dejected. And his wife said, "How did it go?" Because he's, this is Mike Campbell.
Yeah.
This is at a time too when Mike Campbell was like still on his way up, and he said, "I think it went pretty badly." Like, I guess Don Henley would be a hero of his.
Yeah.
And he thought he just basically showed him the door. Said,
Yeah.
Don Henley phones him very shortly after that and says, "I think I've written the greatest song I've ever written." Because I think as soon as Henley heard it, he had this. He
probably like was going through his head, like, I got to get this written down.
Yes. Yeah. I think
you need to go because it's like I'm figuring it out in my head while you're here.
Because I think and he did the guitar part, right? I'm sure that. The guitar part
that sounds
Campbell.
like him. Sounds like him.
It's an interesting guitar part, but I think it created an image immediately of a storyline, which the song has a kind of a cool storyline. But anyway.
Okay, the third one is Born in Chicago, which that's cheating, Matthew. We would just play this.
I'm sorry, but I don't think I've ever used it.
No, the fourth one I thought was Hey Bo Diddley, but I think you were trying to play Hand Jive.
Well, if you listen to the song,
you're not doing Go Cubs Go?
Yes.
No, that's not quite that, is it?
To me, when you listen to the studio version, I only found the song because I did a search on Spotify for Chicago baseball type stuff.
I don't think you've heard Go Cubs Go enough.
Well, this has this has original version. I didn't say I was a Cubs fan. I like the Cubs.
I
like their
Cubs
feel.
fan. I think you need to work on your Go Cubs Go. Okay, but I got it anyway, I guess.
There you go.
All right. Okay, Matthew. So you keep the guitar there. We're going to go right to Musical Musings.
Okay.
We have done the Rorschach riffs, and we will go to Musical Musings. And this episode,
that's on Riffs. Oh no, you got it.
I'm where I need to be now. So, Matthew, your Musical Musings are usually, very often they're associated with your travels around the great state of Michigan and beyond.
Sure.
Okay, so last weekend I went to Arcadia, Michigan, which is just before. What's the highway that goes along the lake there?
M22.
M22 goes up along the I guess it's the west side of Michigan, runs along Lake Michigan there. And my wife's aunt lives in Arcadia, Michigan, which is right next to Frankfort. You kind of go up a hill, and Frankfort is up there. And it's sort of a destination spot for people driving along that highway, right?
Well, I'm sure for vacationers.
It's a vacation spot. Arcadia is just outside there, and it's kind of a vacation spot too. So we went to visit her aunt in Arcadia, and they have an ice cream shop there, Matthew. And I have a theory about travel and soft serve ice cream.
Okay.
And that the more remote the destination is, and the more boring the destination is, the better the soft serve ice cream is, because that is all they got. But so anyway, there is an ice cream place. It's actually a nice ice cream. They got more than soft serve ice cream. So this is just right outside of Arcadia. It's right on the M. What's the highway again?
M22.
It's right on the highway. So if you're going to Frankfort, you're going north to Frankfort, you're gonna drive right by this place. And inside they have a little stage. And I believe this place was started. The property is owned by the bass player there. I think he's now passed away, because I talked to them about this. I think the first time I saw this. But if you look at what kind of bass does that look like there, Matthew? And
it looks like a jazz, I think.
So the name of the band is the Galaxies of Frankfort.
Cool.
So these are old band photos. What would you say the year is? I say this looks like early 60s. See, they're wearing white sport coats, black slacks.
He's got ties on.
It looks like girls are wearing. Are those hip huggers? I think that's what they are.
Can you get closer? There? No, that's as close as you can get.
No, yeah. But
can you see the bass? Is it a?
Now I've got a closer picture of the bass here.
Is it a 3-knob?
This is the bass player. There is an older gentleman playing a black Jazzmaster with a black painted headstock.
Wow.
With a Fender spaghetti logo. So this has to be like a early 60s bass, right? When did the Jazzmaster come out?
I should know that. Well, by 60, is it 60 or 61? It had the concentric knobs, and then was it by 62? It had 2 volume, 1 tone knob.
I don't know.
Yeah, because they went to what is typically known.
I mean, this is an early jazz bass.
Yeah,
and so obviously, probably highly collectible.
Yeah, I think Geddy Lee would probably,
especially with a black painted headstock, black bass with the black painted headstock. So somewhere, I'd assume the family still owns this, but somewhere in Frankfort, Arcadia area, there is this super sweet bass.
Which you don't know anything more about it than that. That's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, no, I believe
the same gentleman that's
holding
it? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So they kind of have like a little area there. In fact, I think this is him playing on the little stage they have there. They have a little sort of area dedicated to the memory of the Galaxies of Frankfort, and so if you're on the hunt for one of these, somewhere around there's one of these basses. I assume the family's still got it, but they have you so stop by that little ice cream place right there. They do have, and I had some soft serve ice cream, Matthew.
Oh wow,
it's pretty good. You
didn't get a banana split or?
Yeah, you could get one there. I mean, they have lots of ice cream there, and there's actually a breakfast place. I didn't photograph that. Just a little further down.
You said it was good.
It was really good. It was new, and it. Also, the thing with these, like I'm sure you've experienced this. If you go to these places, there's 2 kinds of places. There's places that are really good that the locals go to year round, and they're reasonably priced.
Yep. And then there's
the ones that are good, but they're like crazy priced because they know they've got a captive audience up there for the season, and they're shut down in the off season.
Off-season.
But the breakfast place was really good, really new, and reasonably priced. And I think they're aiming for that year-round market of both people passing through town during the sort of like summer season, and then the locals who will continue going there in the off season. But there's your bass.
That's
Matthew,
nice.
if you want to go hunt for that bass,
Yeah, maybe I
you know
have to
where
do
to
that.
start. Go to that ice cream shack or store, shop, parlor.
Have to do some asking.
Yeah. Okay. That I don't know if that Matthew. I don't know if that lived up to the
No, that's very good.
level of your musical musings.
You had an ice cream experience with a guitar safari. Almost, you got almost a guitar safari.
Yeah.
You combine the two.
Yeah.
Come away with a nice bass.
Right there. It's right there. So let's go to the end of the show, Matthew. We've covered a lot.
We did a lot.
I thought we were really zipping through this, but we're like over an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we did a lot. I was wondering when you phoned me on or texted me on Sunday and said, "Are you available? Can you go and do this thing to Chicago?" So
yeah, it was last minute. But when I saw that the hotel was right across from Wrigley Field, the Hotel Zachary, but if you're a Cubs fan and you want to go see a Cubs game, it was very conveniently located. And it was, would you say it was a nice hotel?
Sure.
And it has a theoretically nice restaurant. But we went to go get dessert. And it took forever.
I wouldn't recommend that.
To get dessert.
And then to
It
get
was
a bill.
nice, but when the hotel manager, I asked him if they had dessert. He said, "I'm new here. I'm really not sure." That's pretty bad.
Well,
but
there's
the
lots
hotel's
of
really
options.
nice.
There's lots of food options in Chicago.
Yeah.
No shortage of that.
Yeah, in fact, I wanted to go to Gino's East, which is sort of like I've been there many times in the past, but you got to have reservations now.
Is that a deep dish place?
It's like sort of the original. Well, there's going to be an argument about this, but it's sort of the original deep dish place, and it has to be Gino's East. There's a Gino's North, totally unrelated. I think there's now 2 Gino's East locations. I think the original one's on Erie, and they have like writing all over everything.
That's the one I've been to. I've been to that one.
And they have them kind of now scattered around Chicago area. But they all say Gino's East. So if you want when I was there in the 70s, they also had another place called My Pie that was like at the level of Gino's East. I don't know if that's still around. And then you want to get an Italian beef sandwich. I didn't have an Italian beef sandwich. They used to serve those in junior high. It's a regional thing.
Really? At school?
And it was pretty darn good once a week.
Wow.
And that makes me want one right now. But that's the next thing you want to do.
I remember seeing do you remember Dave Attell, the comedian, had a show, I think it was called like The Late Shift or After Hours, Dave Attell. He would do a set and then it was called, The Insomniac. I think it was Insomnia, Dave Attell. He would go out afterwards and go around the town or whatever city he was in and show you what people did at night. And in Chicago, he went to this food truck where the staff just cursed out the customers. That was part of the experience.
That was part of the ambiance.
Yes, it was. They had to bleep the whole thing, but it was crazy.
I find Chicagoans very friendly.
Oh yeah, no, it's a friendly place.
And
the Midwest.
People were very friendly at Wrigley Field. It's called the Friendly Confines.
Is that what they? Yeah. Everyone got along. There was no fighting.
Although there was a fight the night before
not
between the White Sox fans and Cubs fans. But we didn't experience any of that. Okay. Thank you all for watching.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.